Hey guys, welcome back. This is JK Ultra, and today I'm going to do the highly requested video, which would be my suggested reading list. So this is going to include the books that I referenced throughout the Apocalyptic Prophecy and the Earthshift series and any of my other videos, but also some other books that I just really enjoy. So let's jump right in. I reference a lot of Dolores Cannon work, and I have a lot of Dolores Cannon books. I have so many of the physical books. I have most of them also in audiobook, and a lot of them also only in audiobook. So everyone asks me where to start with Dolores Cannon's work. I suggest starting with her YouTube videos because she has a lot of videos about the New Earth and the 3 waves of volunteers. And she gives excellent information about that in all of her lectures and her seminars that have been uploaded online. So I highly suggest watching those and looking at that. Now, I do like to give suggestions that people can also get the information for free. So Dolores Cannon's books are a bit hard to find for free. Also, you should totally support her and her family for all of the work that she did. But most people ask me, if I want to get into Dolores's work, where do I start? Which book do I read first? So if you've watched the videos and you want a little bit more, I would suggest these 2 right here. Okay. So we have Between Death and Life by Dolores Cannon. And this book is really interesting. So this is a collection. It's very similar to my other #1 suggestion, and I will get into that in a second. These books are very similar by different authors. I love the Dolores take on it. So this Between Death and Life is, she asks a ton of different questions about different things that are a little bit more towards soul experiences. So, you know, a lot of her stuff could be about aliens or this or that. And this Between Death and Life is not just regressing people to past lives. It's about all of that kind of in-between stuff. So, for example, the first chapter is called The Death Experience. And she kind of asks about, you know, what is a death experience? Chapter 3 is the near-death experience. Chapter 5 is the Grand Tour. I love that chapter. I referenced that in my last video about the Akashic Records. Another great chapter, Chapter 7, So-Called Bad Lives. Could you see that? It might be hard to read. So-Called Bad Lives. Chapter 8 is about guides, spirit guides. Chapter 9 is about God and Jesus. Chapter 10 is about Satan, possession, and demons. Chapter 11 is about ghosts and poltergeists. Chapter 12 is about planning and preparation for selecting your life. Chapter 13 is about the General Council. Chapter 14 is about imprinting, and we're going to talk about imprinting in my video about my past lives. So now imprinting, I think I might have referenced this before, at least I did in my Earthshift series on TikTok. So the imprinting is basically, if you're a soul that came from another place, for example, you came from, you know, another star system and you're one of the 3 waves of volunteers, and this is actually your first life as a human, you actually will download from the Akashic Records all of the lives connected to the karma that you will be living out in this life. Chapter 15 talks about walk-ins. Now, a walk-in is very different than a possession. A walk-in is when the soul leaves the body and another soul takes over. And that soul that takes over is a soul that you already have a contract with. And that soul not only has to live out their karma, they have to live out your karma, which you would then be the walk-in So the karma of the original body and the karma of the new soul. And they have to complete the mission of the new soul. So that's a really interesting thing. And the return trip, which is kind of, after you die. So I really suggest this book because it answers a lot of questions. One of the things that's not mentioned here is that she asks about fairies, which are real, guys. Come on. Fairies are real. Get with the program. So she asks about all that type of stuff. I really think that the possession, the ghosts, the poltergeists, all of that stuff is really, really interesting because, she has a really different take on these things. And, a lot of these things are real. So, before I get to the other book. So now if you are looking to start with Dolores Cannon's work, these are the two. There we go. These are the two that I would suggest you start with. So this is going to be more towards like soul information. If you're more in the spiritual soul side and you're thinking about like the soul selection and life selection. Now, Keepers of the Garden is more towards the alien side. So we'll get to that in 1 second. And I'll kind of tell you which you could decide between. But first, let me pull this up. I'm not really prepared. Okay. This is Audible. Okay. So now this one, someone kind of took my copy. I guess it was a gift. I did give as a gift to one person. Oh, hello. All right. There we go. So Journey of Souls by Dr. Michael Newton. So now this is a very similar book to Between Death and Life. And I have talked about that on the Earth Shift series on TikTok. So Dr. Michael Newton was also a hypnotherapist similar to Dolores Cannon. At the same time, they were both doing the same work. Now, Dr. Michael Newton was a skeptic. So the questions that he asks are a little bit more skeptical, I guess. Skeptical, yeah. And he just kind of like wants more proof, more information, whereas Dolores, already a believer, asks like way more out there questions. So like I highly suggest everyone read or listen to Journey of Souls. Like it should be required reading. So if you go to my playlist on this YouTube channel, I have put together a bunch of audiobooks. So you go to the audiobook playlist and Journey of Souls is on there for free for you to listen to, and I highly suggest it. The reader is like, to me, that's the voice of God. So I love the way he sounds. I love his books, all that he reads. And also, when you're done with that, make sure you check out Destiny of Souls. Okay, I'm going to try to... All right. We're not going to... Okay. All right. That's enough. So Destiny of Souls is the sequel to that book. So after you kind of get through like the regular life selection and soul families and why we choose our families and how we choose the lessons that we'll learn in this life and the complications that we'll learn in this life, it's really interesting. But then Destiny of Souls goes a little bit further and kind of asks like the secondary questions that came up in after he released the first book. So both of those are available. Journey of Souls and Destiny of Souls are both available on my audiobook playlist for free. Now, back to where you should start with Dolores Cannon's work. So Keepers of the Garden is an excellent book, and this follows the story of Phil. So Phil is also in the Nostradamus books, and we'll get to that in a moment. So basically, I mean, I'm not going to go through the chapters like this because this one does follow through a bit more of a linear story of her past life regressions with one young man who was actually in his 20s, was younger. Dolores, back in the day, before the volunteers, before a lot of people became enlightened, Dolores didn't like to do sessions with people that were under the age of 30. She just felt that they didn't have enough life experience. And in the 80s was when she met Phil, who was in his 20s. By chance, she met him. And of course, nothing is by accident. So Phil ends up, and I'm going to actually get more into this in the upcoming Alien series that I'm going to do on TikTok that I'm going to call After Disclosure, AD. But this talks a bit more about star seeds. Again, we talk about imprinting. There's a lot of different things. She asks about dinosaurs. One interesting chapter is called Weeds in the Garden. And basically, the garden is Earth. And I'm not going to ruin the end of the book for you, but it's really cool. Like, the last chapter of this book is like, whoa, because we find out after all of this, and there's so much information. Like, they have this thing called interbreeding, which goes back to kind of how humans became. There's just a lot of interesting things. And in the end, and also some points get a little scary. Some parts do get scary. Because there is a hybrid program that's going on with aliens and humans. So that they do get into that in this as well. And that last chapter, we find out the origin of Phil's soul and why he had to incarnate as a human. And that's super interesting because it wasn't a punishment, but he did need to learn a difficult lesson because he made a very big mistake in his past life. And that one, yes, read it. It's really great. I also have it in audiobook. I really enjoy it in audiobook too. So also just so you know, Dolores has recently done, well, not her family has recently put more of those books as audiobooks recently. So the brand new audiobooks that have just come out in the last, really since the lockdowns, they released most of her library. But before that, it was pretty limited. And I do have to say that some of the older ones, the readers are not as good. Keepers of the Garden, I do enjoy. But she has a book called The Custodians, and you know, I love Dolores and I would never give a bad review, so I just stayed silent on it. But The Custodians, it's like the readers are terrible. Like one of them kind of uses an E.T. voice, like the character E.T. And it's just, I don't know. It's not only creepy to listen to, it's like hard to pay attention. But the readers get better, and Keepers of the Garden and Between Death and Life both have pretty good readers. And then her newest ones on audiobook, which will be the Convoluted Universe and the Conversations with Nostradamus and all of those, they have much better readers. Okay, next we are going to talk about the Barbara Marciniak books. So we have these here. She has many books, actually, but these are, I believe, the most worth reading. So Bringers of the Dawn is excellent. Excellent. So Bringers of the Dawn, Teachings from the Pleiadians by Barbara Marciniak. So Pleiadians are aliens from the Pleiades star system. Now, they're often called the Seven Sisters because that in Greek mythology, which was where the Seven Sisters, that's where they got that whole idea from. Also, another interesting thing is that Subaru means Pleiades in Japanese. So if you look at the emblem for a Subaru car, there is a little star system as the logo. So one thing I want to let you guys know about the Pleiadians, because this is sometimes a misconception, and I just want to clear it up. And our next book is a Pleiadian book too. So the Pleiadians, which this is explained in Bringers of the Dawn and also in the Earth book. So Pleiadians helped to seed humans along with other beings. You know, we hear about the Anunnaki, we hear about reptilians, we hear about Pleiadians, we hear about these different beings. Greys also they say that there was at least 12 races of aliens that altered our DNA. Also part of the reason why everything comes back to 12. But there was at least 12 races of aliens that put some of their DNA into the humans, and that's how we became the modern human today. Now, those Pleiadians in ancient times might have not had the evolution, the spiritual might have not been spiritually evolved enough to know that what they were doing to humans was not really ethical. So these books are actually Pleiadians from the future. So these Pleiadians from the future, they're living in tyranny on their planet. So basically, they have a really big mess on their planet. And through their soul searching, they figured out like, wow, our ancestors really screwed over humans. So we need to right the wrongs of our ancestors in order for our planet to karmically be healed. So you sometimes, if you do look into Pleiadians, you will get mixed information because we're talking sometimes the ancient Pleiadians, and they say in this book, not all Pleiadians are good. And always use your discernment with everything, no matter what you're speaking to. Because same thing with humans. Not all humans are good. So I don't want to make it like this blanket statement like a lot of people do in the New Age movement that like Pleiadians are good. They are. There's many good Pleiadians, and there's a lot of them that are trying to help us with our ascension process. However, you will also see some information about Pleiadians making foolish decisions that led to the problems that we have on Earth today. So, one of those things that they describe in this book, which is really interesting. So, both of these books are also in that audiobook playlist. So you can listen to the audiobooks of them for free. Now, the Bringers of the Dawn one is available for purchase on Audible. The Earth one is not. You can find it on that playlist on YouTube for free, but you cannot, it's not for purchase. So one thing that I want to explain about that process of ancient ancestors and future Pleiadians, one of the things that they talk about, and since these books were written in the early 90s, this part was not exactly stated, but this is what my interpretation of it was, that Pleiadians helped create the consciousness of humans to bring higher consciousness into the primate type beings. And they, along with Anunnaki and reptilians and many other races of aliens, wanted to use humans for their own gain. As we know, the Anunnaki used humans as slaves for mining gold and among many other things. So this is kind of compared to how we are now creating AI. We're using things like, I don't use them, but we're using things like Alexa and Siri and things like that. And basically, we're creating these things to mirror and reflect our own image and our own consciousness and to be like us, but we are creating them to be our slaves. Now, eventually, when AI evolves and its consciousness expands, we might be those Pleiadian ancestors who created something for unevolved reasons, for selfish reasons. So to immediately judge a group for that when we are literally doing the same thing right now, I don't know. I'm just saying, have some perspective with it. Because then our future versions of ourselves might need to heal the AI in the future from what we've done to them. So just saying. Anyway, Bringers of the Dawn is like excellent. It's just such a good book. So if you listen to the audiobook, it's only about 2.5 hours, and I highly suggest you do. If you absolutely love that audiobook, because it's like when I listen to it, I feel like it's unlocking things inside of me. But if you buy the physical book, there's so much more. It's 246 pages. So that's way more than 2.5 hours of audio time. So the audiobook, even though it's like so much information, if you really love it, after that, buy the book and read the full thing, because there is a lot of stuff that is in here that is a little bit more controversial that probably would have not worked in that book. For example, some things, they say that we live in a matrix, and they say that there's some things that are very big parts of certain religions that are actually just programs installed into our matrix, that certain events that are held very dearly to many religions never actually occurred, that they were actually just programs that were installed. And one of the other really important things, which is in the audiobook, which relates to this, is they talk about the holographic inserts. So, on the on the TikTok series, we talked about the hologram of the earth, the hologram universe, and the hologram that our brain is. And so they say that there's an off-earth corporation that creates holographic inserts which get installed and played in our matrix. So they say that there's a lot of horrible events, catastrophic events, and different things that have happened in our history that have been very impactful and very manipulative of people's emotions and incited a lot of fear in people, that were not natural events, that they're actually holographic inserts. And they say that it's so nice that we learned how to make movies, because basically watching a movie is very similar to a holographic insert. And they said that now that we have movies, we can finally understand this concept. So imagine a hologram movie being projected into our reality, and that they say even if you're in one of these events, one of these things that are being installed into our matrix for simply fear or control, that you won't even know you're in a hologram. You'll believe it as true, and your body and everything will react as if it's true. Like the injuries, the feeling, everything will be true. And so anyway, they say the only way that you can know for sure if something is real or a hologram would be to use dowsing rods, which I'm not very familiar with, but I do see a lot of people on TikTok doing those live videos with the dowsing rods. And why does everyone in those videos like ask if they're pregnant or not? And why is the answer always yes? I don't know. But let me look at the table of contents and see if there's anything else that I want to... Okay. Another thing that comes up in these books, which is in this book, and then we'll get into the Earth book, which is really cool, Pleiadian Keys to the Living Library. So I did talk about this in the TikTok series. So the Living Library is Earth. And basically, Pleiadians say that they are members of the family of light. And they say that the family of light is a collective that is very, very old and ancient, and way like from the beginning of the universe. And they are the ones who created Earth, and them and a group of beings. And I know this is obviously probably pretty triggering for some people who, are not open to information outside of their religious values. So if that, triggers you, I'm sorry. But also, if you're triggered by something, it's usually, your own problem. Just saying. It's not other people's responsibility to tiptoe around anything to prevent you from being triggered. Just saying. And when you feel triggered, it's usually an indicator that you need to do some work or some healing around that topic. So even like before, when I talked about Satan in that book, if you're triggered by that, then maybe there's some healing that needs to happen around fear and darkness. So Earth is a living library, and basically they say there's 12 living libraries, and that Earth is not really aligned with them at this time. So they say that they took everything from everywhere in the universe, every species of animals, plants, everything, and they brought it all to Earth. And Earth was supposed to be kind of like this special library where anyone could save all the information. And then humans were created, which also, like I said, the Pleiadians didn't only create us to be like enslaved, but there was some things that they did that maybe were not fully thought through. But the family of light, which is more than Pleiadians, but it does include them, they created or manipulated a primate species, which later became humans, and they created us and our DNA in a way that we would be the keys to the library. So when they say the keys to the living library, that's us. And when they say the bringers of the dawn, those are the people that are here to change the paradigm on Earth. So humans in our DNA have the entire history of everything that ever was, and all of the history of the galaxy is within our DNA. And of course, I mean, if you want to listen to science, sorry. I get triggered by science once in a while just because of the people who want to argue with you about things, because, you know, there's obviously science is valid, but that doesn't mean it's the only valid form of information. And science, a lot of times, like I just never understood this ever since I was a kid, that there's 90% junk DNA. Okay, everything in nature has a purpose. Even flies eating shit have a purpose. Ants have a purpose. Everything on this planet has a purpose. A blade of grass, like everything. And you mean to tell me that us, allegedly the most evolved species on this planet, were invented with 90% junk? It makes no sense to me. And it's also proven that our DNA is basically could hold so many gigs of information. They have done these studies, which, yeah, of course, there's a lot of information in the galaxy, which is why you can always tap into yourself to get information. You don't need any outside information. You don't need any of these books. You can always get information through yourself. Now, I'm not a channeler. I do read the Akashic records, but I don't ask for like galactic answers. I usually just do it for myself or friends who need advice about stuff. But all of this information can be accessed. So they say that when humans are aligned, we can get all of the information from our DNA, but also all of the information from the planet. Okay, moving on. The Pleiadian Workbook, Awakening Your Divine Ka by Amorah Quan. Now, this book is very special. Sorry, I just saw something in here that I never saw. The Ka portal. Okay, so I'm going to, actually, there's a lot of exercises in here, and I am going to record some of them as meditations, guided meditations. But in the meantime, this book is like so interesting and so special because, one, I bought this book used, but it says my name inside the book already, and I didn't even realize until after I had it for like months, maybe even almost a year before I realized that my name was written. And I write my J's like that. It's really strange. And then also one of my friends who has a very unique name is also one of the people who wrote one of the like testimonies about this book. So the other thing is, I bought this book at a store called Soul Connections in Mount Shasta. Now, Mount Shasta is the root chakra of the world. It is also the place where Telos is located. So inside Mount Shasta or beneath Mount Shasta is Telos, Telos. And that is the Lemurian city. So when the Lemurian civilization ended, some of the beings who ascended, kind of similar to the way that we will ascend to 5D, those beings that ascended, they went to Telos and they live on a inner earth civilization. And hold on, let me get from the bottom of the pile here while we're talking about inner earth. Oh, I hope it doesn't fall. Oh my God. Oh. Okay. So, the Pleiadian Workbook, it has all of these different exercises for light workers, for healing, and a lot of really interesting information. Let's see. Let's look at the... So I found this book on a discount rack for like $1 in Mount Shasta. And when I went inside the store to pay for it, I bumped into... And I'll have to do a whole separate video on this. I bumped into a guy that I had not seen in 9 years. And he was the first person who taught me about conspiracies. Now, I always was kind of into conspiracies because my mom would send me like really weird chain letters because she didn't want bad luck. So I remember like the Beatles conspiracy and the whole JFK, Abraham Lincoln, the whole thing being lined up perfectly conspiracy. The Beatles conspiracy being that Paul died and that basically he was like replaced. And all of these things. I mean, there's so much to it. Anyway, I remember reading those chain letters when I was like really young. Like, I don't know, maybe like 4th or 5th grade. Because my mom sent them to me. Because, you know, if you didn't send it to 10 people, you would get bad luck. So I did kind of always, and obviously my alien experience growing up, I did kind of always like conspiracies a bit. But I didn't really know the level of it. And I worked in a weed shop in Hollywood. I've worked in many weed shops and many. And so there was this guy who came in and started telling me about like, I don't know, we used to have pretty cool conversations. And I don't know, one day he was telling me, he's like, well, you know, this place used to be a Jamaican after hours club. And they would open at 3 a.m. and this guy used to be a DJ there. And I'm like, oh, that's cool. And then before that, he's like, well, you know, this used to be a like dominatrix dungeon before that. I'm like, wow, that's interesting. And then he's like, and then before that, it was actually witches that had this place. And I'm like, oh, wow. So then he kind of starts going off about like the witch thing. And he's like, yeah, well, you know, I had a record deal and then they wanted me to do something for that record deal. And I wouldn't do that. So then they basically took the record deal away from me. And I was like, oh, wow. Who? He's like, they, them, you know, they're all in on it. And I'm like, who's all in on it? He's like, everybody, all of them are in on it. All of history, everyone is in on it. And I'm like, everyone, like all the way back. And I'm like, what, like Plato, Socrates, they were in on it too? He's like, everyone's in on it. And he really starts like freaking out. He's like, don't you know all the presidents are related? And he starts going off on all this stuff. And I was having a reaction to it, and he was getting really like crazed and heated, and his eyes were like, the whites of his eyes were like really like, you know, and I'm like, okay, that's enough. And then I start yelling at him back for some reason. We get into a big argument, and I was like, all right, that's enough. And then like I like grab him and like push him out the door. And as I'm like pushing him out the door and locking it, he's like, they have a map of Atlantis. And I was like, man, that guy was fucking crazy. Fuck that guy. He pissed me off. And then I went home and looked up about the whole presidents being related thing and went through like a year or more binge of conspiracies and spiritual awakening and crazy, scary stuff and all types of things. And my whole life started to change. And then I never saw that guy again. And I used to see him regularly, but then the shop closed down and then I never really saw him ever again until 9 years later, the day after Christmas, 2012, 20. So it was December 26th, 2020. I was in Mount Shasta and I was with my ex-boyfriend and we went into this store called Soul Connections because I saw this book for sale for $1 in front of it. And we went inside to pay for it. And the Rastafarian DJ who taught me about conspiracies is in this fucking store. So I'm like, oh my God, like that's him. And I go up and I'm like, hey, you used to live in Hollywood, right? And he's like, yeah. And I'm like, and you're a DJ, right? He's like, yeah. And I'm like, and you used to go to this weed shop, right? He's like, oh my God, you're the girl from the weed shop. He's like, we used to have such great conversations. He totally doesn't remember me like physically throwing him out of the shop the last time I saw him. He doesn't recall that, thankfully. So then he's like, you know, the reptilians have been after me. And he starts telling me all this stuff, which I believe him. And so that's the story of me getting this book. But there's a lot of really great exercises in it. And I'm actually going to do those as meditations. So I don't need to get too into this book just now because I'm going to do some other videos on that. But one of the things that's really cool is Ra speaks. Now, Ra is the sun god. In this book, they do claim that Ra is a Pleiadian. So this, well, talks about the pole shift. The pole shifts will have repositioned Earth in relationship to the sun. The sun will have simultaneously been repositioned with similar pole shifts related to the Pleiades. Speaking of which, today is March 8th. I'm probably not going to be able to get this video up tonight because it takes forever to upload. But March 8th, I got a notification on my phone yesterday that said, March 8th, the moon will be perfectly aligned with the Pleiades. So here we are, perfectly aligned with the Pleiades right now. And this is also where they talk about that same chapter, Ra Speaks. It also talks about how, let me find it. I used it in my 144,000 video, and it talks about how there will be 144,000 Christed beings who reach Christ consciousness, who bring 20 million people into the new earth. I believe it says 20 million. And that when they raise their consciousness, when 144,000 beings who chose to be here, who chose to reach Christ consciousness, we are going to shift into the new earth. So this book is really cool. It's always like highly suggested. The guy who did my hypnosis, when I told him I had just bought this book a couple days before, he's like, you know what? People have been suggesting that book to me for years. I'm going to finally buy it. And then he ended up posting about how he loved it. Speaking of Mount Shasta and Telos, now this is a book that I haven't really fully read yet, but a friend read it and told me the whole story, so I bought it, and then I just haven't had the time to read it. But it's a super fast read. It's only like 70 pages, and the print is really big. Oh. Interesting. Once again, talking about the pole shift. Anyway, the Smokey God. The Smokey God. And there we go. Now, this book is about, so it's kind of written as a fiction book, but it's also talks about the story of how the story was received. So it was originally published in 1908, and it's about a guy and his son, who they decide that they're going to go on a journey on their boat to the North Pole. Now, when they arrive at the North Pole, instead of being an icy cap like we've been told it is, it's a beautiful area, and it's like a hole in the planet, like a vortex. And basically they keep going towards it, and then they are sucked in, and there's a civilization in there of highly advanced beings. And these beings basically start telling them all of these secrets about the world. Now, this guy and his son really existed, and this, allegedly really did happen to them. And I believe it was when the son was dying that he contacted this author and told the whole story, because he didn't want this incredible voyage that he took, a voyage to the inner world. He didn't want his voyage to be lost forever. So this is a really fun, quick read with a lot of interesting information. They basically say that there's an inner sun. So like the way that we believe that there's magma inside of the planet, there is, I don't know if that's in this book, from other stuff that I've read and come across, that there is magma, but it's not exactly the way that we have been told. And that inside the earth, there's like a honeycomb structure where different civilizations live. And that basically this inner sun is where they get their energy and life source from. So really cool read. Let's see, what's next? All right. Well, then we'll do this one. This one's good. Louise Hay, Heal Your Body. She also has another book that's like a very similar name. Both of them are equally as good. This is like the secondary one. Oh, it says it right here. New York Times bestselling author of You Can Heal Your Life, Louise Hay. So this book's really interesting. So they claim every illness is created by your thoughts, words, emotions, and actions. If you watch my TikTok, you know how much I talk about that. So let's talk about, I'll just pick some random ones here. And hopefully these random ones resonate with you guys. So, problem, probable cause, and the new thought pattern that you should replace it with. So, accidents, inability to speak up for the self, rebellion against authority, or belief in violence. New thought pattern. I release the pattern in me that created this. I am at peace and I am worthwhile. Addictions. Running away from the self. Fear. Not knowing how to love the self. New thought pattern. I now discover how wonderful I am. I choose to love and enjoy myself. Let's see. Let's open to a random one. Candida. Yeast infections, thrush. Feeling very scattered. Lots of frustration and anger. Demanding and untrusting in relationships. I give myself permission to be all that I can be and deserve the very best in life. I love and appreciate myself and others. Constipation. Refusing to release old ideas. Being stuck in the past. Sometimes stinginess. I release the past. The new and fresh and vital enter. I allow life to flow through me. Cysts. This is a good one. Running the old painful movie. A false growth. The movies of my mind are beautiful because I choose to make them so. I love me. Okay. We'll do two more. Let's see here. Pick a good one. Gonorrhea. I mean, it's just popping off the page, okay? I'm really hoping that this doesn't resonate with you guys, but honestly, it's not that big of a deal. Just take some antibiotics. And adopt this new thought pattern. Gonorrhea. A need for punishment for being a bad person. I love my body. I love my sexuality. I love me. I'm not going to pick another. I mean, it's popping off the page. Hemorrhoids. Fear of deadlines. Anger from the past. Being afraid to let go. And feeling burdened. I release all that is unlike love. There is time and space for everything I want to do. Okay, one more, and then we'll stop. Like a little bit more of a common one. Let's pick a common one. Indigestion. Gut level fear. Dread. Anxiety. I digest and assimilate all new experiences peacefully and joyfully. Ovaries represent points of creation and creativity. I am balanced in my creative flow. So that one, I'm assuming, myself included, most women now do have ovary issues because of all of the chemicals in everything. And it's just messing up our whole, that's a great book to suggest. Where is it? Yes. Okay.
I want you to begin connecting with your uterus and ovaries.
Oh, yeah. This one for all the ladies out there. Woman Code by Elisa Vitti. It's excellent. This book is excellent. It's basically learning about your cycle and how to balance your life around your hormonal cycle. Also related to that, stay tuned for this, guys. I am creating my own workbook, and it's going to be, and I'll do a whole video about it, lining up the moon cycles with your body's hormonal cycle for women who are menstruating. So the menstrual cycle and the moon cycle, and how that relates to basically the 4 cycles of nature. And that basically when we understand that our body operates on the same cycle that nature does, it's a way to harmonize our body from within and match it to the outside world and really optimize the times of the month, both hormonally and the nature sides of the cycles. Sorry, I don't know what happened to me there. Basically, it's going to be called MOONBOOK, and it's a 13-month planner / period tracker / moon tracker / intention setting and journaling. And it's kind of a way to really connect back with your divine feminine power for those women who are menstruating. Okay. Now, let's get into the goods. So we used these both in the Earthshift series and the Apocalyptic Prophecy series. So this is Convoluted Universe Book 2. Sorry, this is Book 2. This is Book 3. Do you really see how thick these are, too? This is Book 1. These things are like 700 pages each. Do you realize, guys, how much freaking information I take in? Hello, these are heavy. They're breaking my wrists right now. So all of these books are great. Which one's my favorite? Book 2. Book 2 freaking rocks. Also, let's see. I have Convoluted Universe books 4 and 5 only in audiobook. Highly suggest them. They're really great for talking about. So now the difference between these Convoluted Universe books, which is why I don't suggest those kind of being the first places that you jump into with Dolores canon, because they're kind of like compilations of all the other things that didn't fit into most of her book series. So they're kind of like about Atlantis and the New Earth and everything. I'll just read a couple of the chapters to you. cat people. Yes. A normal past life therapy, the hidden city, the goddess Isis, escape from Atlantis, children create karma, life in non-human bodies, work during the sleep state, life on other planets, life, if you think you create, a creator being returns home, the multifaceted soul, the new earth. I'll read you some of the chapters from book 1. Atlantis, Mystery of the Pyramids, The Awakening, Parallel Universes, Transformation of the Human Body, The God Source, ? Yes, it did have a question mark. And book 3. I'll read you some of the chapters. That's what I mean. These are kind of like compilation books. And they have a lot of really cool stuff in them, but they're very like big and heavy, and I suggest the audiobooks because it is easier to take in the information. And I mean, I know a lot of people who bought these Convoluted Universe books and then they don't finish them because they're like 700 pages. So I feel like Keepers of the Garden or Between Death and Life are a good place to start. Consciousness of Cells. Everything has consciousness. The Green Planet. Planet of Blue People. The Black Hole Energy. The Volunteers. Past lives are no longer important. The Void. Parallel Worlds. A Different Law of Creation and Physics. The New Earth. The Coming Shift. Help in a Time of Chaos. Those Left Behind. Which is why, if you are looking to look into more of the New Earth stuff, Convoluted Book 3 it has probably, a good amount of information for it. But also another resource, which is what I was listening to today on my drive when Spotify went down,
Her only memory
was all right. I mean, this is not okay. Anyway, it says The 3 Waves of Volunteers and the New Earth. And this is a really interesting book because it's a lot about aliens. It's a lot about the hybrid program. It's a lot about abductions. A lot of volunteers have experienced abductions. That's a great one. Convoluted Universe books 4 and 5 are also very interesting. I'll just kind of quickly tell you what some of the chapters are. Let's see here. Okay, book 5.
She's not real.
Finishing Karma. Resisting Being Born. The Mermaid. I Am You. Energy Portal. Influencer of Outcomes and Realities. Creator of Realities. The Backdrop People. The Entire Universe. Okay. Let's see. Also, a lot of people ask me in the comments, well, where does Jesus fit into this? And I'll tell you. Dolores had this book.
Used when you study the stars.
She had this book called, it's just not, there we go. Oh, no. Oh, right. It's just, I'm not going to do it. Jesus and the Essenes. So that was a book where someone regressed to a life that they were a part of the Essenes, which was a group. I don't want to say like an order because it wasn't exactly, and it wasn't like a fraternity. It was more like a collective of other spiritual beings who lived with Jesus. She also has a book called They Walked with Jesus, but I never read that one. Let's see here. Okay. I know you guys went crazy on these books on TikTok, Nostradamus, Conversations with Nostradamus by Dolores Cannon. These are really interesting. These are all about the apocalypse, and I'm going to upload the Apocalyptic Prophecy series, and that's like what those books are. You guys already know what those are about. Here is a book that I reference in a lot of my videos. Behold a Pale Horse by William Cooper. Now, this book is freaking cool. So this guy used to work for the U.S. Navy, and he was an Navy intelligence. And he read a lot of declassified documents and then later on wrote a book about them and became the OG conspiracy theorist. And I don't know, you know, that whole statement, wake up sheeple? That was his whole thing. He had a little radio show back in the day before podcasts, obviously, because he was killed by cops in the 90s. Now, this book has really cool stuff in there. It has a lot of alien stuff, but it has a lot of conspiracy stuff about the programming, about the government control, the chemicals, the poisons in the air and the food and everything. It's just a lot of really interesting stuff. Like, I mean, I just opened to this page about the artificial womb, the political structure of a nation. I mean, this book is just great. And you might recognize the title, Behold a Pale Horse, from the book of Revelation. And it's talking about the 4 horsemen of the apocalypse. And the 4th horse of the apocalypse is, I think he has the quote here. Let's see. And I looked, and behold a pale horse, and his name that sat upon him was Death. And hell followed with him, and power was given unto them over the 4th part of the earth to kill with sword, and with hunger, and with the beasts of the earth. The Holy Bible, the book of Revelation, chapter 6, verse 8. So that also, I never mentioned that in the Apocalypse series, that I was also referencing this book. I did mention that I was referencing it, but I didn't mention that the title is the from the book of Revelation about the apocalypse. Let's see. This is an OG classic. I have an original copy of it. Like, it's kind of sad, the condition that she's in. Ooh. 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 Be careful. By the way, that's the CFR right here. Let's see if I could show you anyway without it falling apart. Now, this book is like so iconic. A OG conspiracy book, like even more than that. This is from the 70s. And, oh yeah, you guys are going to like this one too. Let me show you this. Okay. This is what they want us to believe. So, as you can see, they want us to believe that this is what they want us to believe, is that democracy is in the middle and both sides are dictatorships, fascism and communism. They want us to believe that these are the two things and that democracy is in the middle. But in reality, that's just one of the lies that we are programmed to believe, because actually all of it, total government, fascism, communism, all of it, dictatorships, all dictatorships of total government are on one side of the spectrum, and the other side of the spectrum is actually anarchy. So they like you to believe that we're kind of in between these like two dictatorships of extreme, but actually both of them are on the same side of the spectrum. They're not opposites of each other. They're the same. And that if you really want to go the opposite of dictatorship or the opposite of communism or the opposite of fascism, that's anarchy. which I just always thought was interesting. And they talk about here, over here is like constitutional republic government. So, I mean, honestly, this is just, yeah. Chart 1 depicts a false left-right political spectrum used by liberals, which this is talking about liberals in the 70s. You know that they, well, maybe you know, they do constantly flip these things. Like the beliefs that are on one side, they will flip to the other side. And they talk about that a lot in this book. Now, you can find this book and also Behold a Pale Horse. You can find these books, the PDF, for free. This is this is not an original copy. So I'm missing about 50 pages from this book. The original copy had parts of it removed about banking families. Now, I don't know how this book lasted like 35 years, but then aged so much in the last 8 years that I've had it. I don't know. It aged all 30 years since I've had it. I don't know why. It's just been on the shelf. But one of the really cool things about this book is that they talk about how the Federal Reserve came about and how basically first it was like a Democrat idea. And I'm not sure which way it started. No. First it was actually a Republican conservative idea. And people didn't want to do it because they had already abolished a central bank. So a couple years later, a Democratic senator presented the same exact bill with a different title and different marketing, and it got pushed through. And this is the same shit we're dealing with today. So, I mean, some people, like, you know, a lot of people try to ask what religion I am, what political party am I, and all this stuff. None. Fucking none. None. So, also another thing that I really love about this book, like I said, you can find the PDF of this online. They would rather have you believe that all of these acts over all of these years are just coincidence. But if it was truly coincidence and not a conspiracy, which, by the way, conspiracy doesn't mean crazy. Conspiracy doesn't mean lie. Conspiracy means that there is a group of people working together with secret intentions. So when people talk about conspiracies, it's not, they're making up a lie. That's something that the media has recently started to portray because, you know, they know people are getting close to the truth. So this book talks about how basically they would rather tell us that these are all just random acts, but they say that if it was truly all random, then why do none of these policies benefit the average person? And why does all of them always benefit the elite and always benefit the same people, the same families, the same thing? It's just incredible. And this here is like about the CFR, which if you don't know what the CFR is, I highly suggest you look into it. Okay. None dare call it conspiracy. From 1972, I believe. Not all of the charts are in the PDF copy, I believe. Okay. Next. Stalking the Wild Pendulum. This is a hard-ass book to read. Like, seriously, like freaking hard. The Mechanics of Consciousness. Now, I'm telling you, I've tried to read this book. It's really interesting. Sometimes I can, sometimes I don't get it. One day I took a little bit of mushrooms. Nothing has ever made more sense in my whole life. Like, I read this book in my moon pod on mushrooms, like, whoa, this is the truth. I finally get it. But I didn't retain all that information. So I've only like gotten through sections of this. And I really enjoyed it, but it's really complex the way it's written. One thing that I do really like is that in the foreword, he says, like, I'm not saying this is the ultimate of truth. What I'm saying that this is my current understanding. And I can't guarantee that my understanding of it will not change over time or that I might not learn new information. So I'm telling you this right now from my current understanding. And I always resonated with that a lot because that's what we need to remember. Like all of these books, me, videos like this, other people that you could watch, anything. This is based on current understanding. So are we getting the full ultimate truth? That's not possible. We don't understand it all. So I really like that he said that. Also, if you watched my Earthshift series, this is the book that the CIA used to explain the hologram that we currently live in on Earth. So, yeah, that's the reason I bought this book. Actually, no. The reason I bought this book is because of this book. And then later I saw that it became popular for that. And because I didn't know about the CIA documents, actually. I bought it because of this book. Where are we at here? The Data Factor. Dolphins, Extraterrestrials, and Angels. Now, hello. It's like right up my alley. Dolphins, Extraterrestrials, and Angels. Adventures Among Spiritual Intelligences by Timothy Wylie. This is a really interesting book. And I bought it used, and someone had already done the highlighting in it, which I also really liked because this is an original copy. And right now that I opened up to is a quote, "Whale songs are long and complicated, something like reciting the Iliad," says Carl Sagan in 90 minutes. Then repeating it perfect all over again. Interesting. Okay, now I bought this book because obviously, like, those things are all cool. But this book referenced this book. So when I saw the stuff from this book being referenced in the Data Factor, I bought this book to read more. But it was really hard. And another thing too, so in the back of this book, it talks about the Urantia Book. Now, yes, here we go. Timothy Wylie has been living with the mysteries for as long as he can remember. Now, following the path of their hearts and using the Urantia Book and A Course in Miracles as spiritual tools, he and his companion, after many wonderful adventures, find themselves channels for vital universe information. The Data Factor is the first volume of a proposed trilogy outlining the extraordinary transformation of this planet, and this planet is currently undergoing under the guidance of benevolent entities from more subtle realms of existence. I kind of botched that, but I hope you got it. Now, the Urantia Book. The Urantia Book is like a freaking ultimate suggestion. Sorry, my pile's getting really high and dangerous on this side. Okay, the Urantia Book, which is right here. Now this, I purchased this, but this is all available for free online. My goodness. I mean, why do I continue to attempt this? I really believe in it, don't I? Okay, we're doing that. The Urantia Book. So it's Urantia. Urantia. The Urantia Book is kind of like another Bible. Like, and I know, come on, don't be triggered. Calm down. It's like another Bible. It's literally as long as one. Each part is like 26 hours in the audiobook. And there are several parts. So this Urantia Book, if you go to the Urantia Foundation, you can get they have on those websites the physical written form and the audio form on the same page. So what I like to do is sometimes listen and read along because it is like crazy, crazy complex. And now this Urantia book, the story behind it is that there was a businessman, I believe in like Chicago or something like that, in the 30s, the 1930s, and regular guy, not like really into all of this. He started having these episodes where he would kind of like faint, fall asleep, and have like go into a trance state. And then something would start talking through him and started explaining the universe, the structure of the universe, the creation, talking about God, Jesus, everything, explaining it all, like the devil, everything, where it all is, what's right, what is incorrect. It goes through everything. And like, it's really complex. Like, I've been working my way through the Urantia book for, I don't know, at least 7-8 years. And there's a couple chapters that I'm really like fascinated by. I actually keep going back to those same chapters. Let me see. I might just tell you them. So one is the Paradise Creator Sons. Paper 21, the Paradise Creator Sons. So you see, you can go to the Urantia Foundation. It worked. And as you see on the Urantia Foundation, you could go to the paper and then it has all of the text. But at the top of the page, it also has a little thing that you could play and listen. Now, the Paradise Creator Sons is a concept that like really, I'm so fascinated by. The Paradise Creator Sons are the makers and the rulers of the local universes of time and space. This first paragraph took me years to understand, and I'm going to explain it to you. So, universes, there's many universes. We're in one universe right now, but there's many universes. Some universes are universes of time and space. Not all of them are universes of time and space. Stay with me. The Creator Sons are the makers and rulers of the local universes of time and space. Meaning these Creator Sons, Son, S-O-N, like Father, Son, like Jesus. These universe creators and sovereigns are of dual origin, embodying the characteristics of God the Father and of God the Son. But each Creator Son is different from every other. Each is unique in nature as well as in personality. Each is the only begotten Son of the perfect deity, ideal of his origin. And I know that doesn't make sense, but I'm going to try to explain it as best as I can understand it. These Creator Sons are the only son of the ideal deity of its origin. So like our ideal deity is like God, the creator, source. The only son of what we believe this creator is. The Son, S-O-N, is the one who creates and makes the universes of time and space. Like, whoa. So basically what it's saying is that this pattern of like Jesus, who is the Son of God, according to Christianity, is a pattern in universes, that all of the universes of time and space have this exact same pattern. They all have a being that is their son of God, who is a creator, who is also the son, but is also the God and Father. Like, what? I mean, this is just the first This is just the first paragraph of this whole chapter. I'm telling you, that's why it's taken me years to really get through this. I'm going to skip this next paragraph and I'm going to do one more. These primary paradise sons are personalized as Michaels, meaning we're going to call them Michaels. As they go forth from paradise to found their universes, they're known as creator Michaels. So when these beings, these Michaels, these sons of God, this pattern in every universe, I know we've probably gone really deep here, but you're deep already. This is when the crazy shit comes out. So they become creator Michaels, because now they're creating universes of time and space. When settled in supreme authority, they are called master Michaels. So they're first creator Michaels. Now they create a universe. And now this is my interpretation, is that when that universe reaches ascension, a high point of ascension, they become a master Michael. And the sovereign of your universe, of Nebadon, they say our universe is named Nebadon, is called Christ Michael to them in this book, in translation to English. Always and forever do they reign after the order of Michael. Yeah. Basically, too, they say that the reason why Urantia, so Urantia is Earth. So instead of Earth, they're calling it Urantia. And they say that that's one of the names of Earth in the universe, Urantia. And that our Michael, Christ Michael, was very special because he is the only Michael that decided to incarnate on a low life form like Earth. That none of the other Michaels have ever done anything like that. And because he chose to come to Urantia to fulfill this, to help people learn, or they don't say Christ consciousness in this because it's like written in the 30s. And a lot of the terminology is very Christian. I don't know if that's because of the time, that was the information that they had. It's also very male dominant. Whereas the Earth book talks about how the God energy is a feminine energy, although it's no gender or sex. It's just a creator energy. And the female energy is the creation part of energy. But so this is very male dominated and also uses a lot of Christian terminology, but this was also in the 30s where they didn't have a lot of the new age terms that we have today. So basically having humanity reach Christ consciousness is also part of Master Michael's plan. Okay. So that's what I'm saying. Anyway, the other chapter is the Lucifer Rebellion, which is also another point of interest for me, which also the Lucifer Rebellion is in this book as well. In the end of this book, he channels Lucifer. Like I said, don't get scared. And look, right now I open to the page. Christ Michael. But our modest little planet has some advantages. It was after all the world chosen by Christ Michael, the creator God of the local universe, for the site of his seventh and last incarnational bestowal. If only for this exalted reason, the planet would be the most special place for our extraterrestrial brethren. Interesting. So that's from the Data Factor. So that was part of the reason why I chose this book, was because on the back it said that Timothy Wylie learned a lot of his information from the Urantia Book. And I had been trying to decipher the Urantia Book for years. So it's interesting that that's the page I just opened to, which was literally the chapter I was just talking about. I mean, come on, the synchronicities here. And I'm sure you guys watching are having like a ton of synchronicities. So the Lucifer Rebellion is another part of the Urantia Book, paper 53, the Lucifer Rebellion. Oh, I get it. I need to go real close to the lens. I got it. I wish I would have gotten that 20 books ago. Oh, right. So now the Lucifer Rebellion, we've heard a lot of information about that, and I'm not going to get all into it now. Maybe one day I will. But basically, you know, this story that Lucifer was an angel and then betrayed God and then wanted to, I don't know. You know the story. But this gives a different perspective on it. Now, this does also say, which I'm also interested if you guys ever watch Spirit Science, the human history thing, that is also on one of my playlists on YouTube. They talk about the Lucifer experiment in that documentary, and I resonate with that a lot because I do believe that even darkness has a purpose. Everything is a part of God, you know, God, whatever that means to you, and the source and the universe. Everything that exists is from the source of energy that everything else originates from. So even darkness has its purpose to teach. And, you know, even if it's not your purpose, you could come to some type of peace pertaining to the fact that they also are learning and teaching others and doing that as well. The same way we're learning and teaching others and helping others, they're doing it in a different way, which is separate, seeming from source, but nothing is truly separate from source. That's only an illusion. The synchronicity here. So the Spirit Science human history movie talks about the Lucifer experiment. Totally watch it. That was like in the beginning of my spiritual journey. That was a great resource for me. Another thing that comes up in that thing is the Transylvanian sunrise. Now, this is a really interesting book, which I've only gotten a little bit into. And this talks about how in Romania, there is a, you know, how you guys have probably heard about the Montauk Project. That's really what Stranger Things, the TV show on Netflix, is about. Even though, I mean, I didn't watch the third season, but like, I don't think they ever ended up getting to it. They never really got to what was happening. But I don't know. I didn't watch the newest thing, but I think they kind of like abandoned the original concept of the show that was eventually supposed to get revealed. And I think they just kind of focused on the kids and stuff. Oh, how interesting. The page I opened up to. You see, we were just talking about inner earth. And then I open up to the thing of inner earth. Okay. And holographic projection. I mean, come on. Everything is in sync. Now, this book is about how that program that got shut down, the Montauk Project, which is like a huge thing, very like popular thing, that, even though it's shut down in Montauk, it continues to happen in Romania. And it happens through a completely different like organization. And they're doing a lot of stuff that they were not able to do in the US. Let me look. Oh, yes. Our state of. Now, this book, Untethered Soul, beautiful book. I highly suggest it. It's nice. It's about kind of like separating from your inner voice. And like, honestly, this is another one. Like, everyone should read this or listen to it. And I'm pretty sure I have it for free in that audiobook playlist on my YouTube channel. Here's another one. This, you can find parts of it on YouTube, but I had some on the playlist and they got deleted. So this one is The Holographic Universe by Michael Talbot. Also a little bit more difficult to get, but it kind of bridges hologram and spirituality. So science and spirituality. All right. Oh, this was a good one. This one was so freaking good. The Divine Matrix by Greg Braden. Like, incredible book. Oh. Dr. Joe Dispenza, also bridging science and spirituality with his book, Becoming Supernatural. Excellent book. I had the physical copy, but someone took it, never returned it. Once again, I've mentioned this book so many times. I highly suggest it. If you want to read the Akashic Records, then take a look at this. Yeah. Linda Howe, How to Read the Akashic Records. And that one is great for anyone who wants to access the records themselves. Let me do a quick once over of... I know we're getting to a point where it's getting a little long here, and I don't want to go too long, but let me just do like a quick skim through my books and see if there's anything that's really relevant and important to this. Okay, I think that's good. Oh, yeah, this one's really nice too. This one's really good. It's a classic. The New Psycho-Cybernetics. So any of the Psycho-Cybernetics books, if you can find them for free, I think I have a version of it on one of the YouTube for free on my YouTube audiobooks playlist. All of them are going to be good. So this is a method created... Well, not method, a philosophy and teachings created by Dr. Maltz, Dr. Maxwell Maltz. And now Dr. Maltz was the world's first plastic surgeon. So he actually learned a lot about the human psyche because obviously plastic surgery did not start with cosmetic. It started with injuries and reconstruction and, you know, more so as a medical practice as opposed to a, cosmetic practice. And he learned so much about the human psyche through that. And he talks a lot about mental movies, which is something that comes up in Joe Dispenza's work, as well as the Jose Silva method. They all talk about visualization and the power of visualization and how it can basically... He talks about mental movies. So not only manifesting what you want, but also taking time to visualize the other successes that you've had. So like not only envisioning the things that you want to achieve, but also envisioning the other things that you've already achieved in your life is also just as equally important. So that's great. I'm going to have two left here. Happy Money by Ken Honda. Ken Honda, he calls himself the Happy Panda, and he truly is. He's so freaking cute. I love him. And basically, this is Japan's best-selling Zen millionaire. And he has a philosophy around money that basically money is energy and that you have to make your money happy in order for money to be happy to be around you. And it's a very really simple concept. And I actually took his Mind Valley course It was like a 30-day program, and it was so great. Making Peace with Your Money. And gosh, it really is so good. And different techniques like figuring out how you perceive money. And if you have negative emotions towards money, then money has negative emotions towards you. And he said, like, open your wallet and see, is money happy to be around you? Or are you the type of person who, when you get your paycheck, are like, oh, it's not enough. Oh, I hate to spend it. Or he even talks about this one story, how his friend and him, exchanged birthday gifts. And so when his friend was giving him a gift, he was giving his friend a gift for the birthday. And he said he put a lot of thought and spent a good amount of money on it. And the friend was like, oh, I really like this, but how about we both save ourselves money and just stop exchanging gifts altogether? It's fine. And he's like, Ken Honda is like, well, I think it's good for me to spend money on people that I love. And I think that the excitement of finding something for you and something that you would enjoy brings me joy. And he's like, it's going to bring us both more money when we share our money in a happy way. So like sometimes, say if you're going to pay for something, if you pay for it begrudgingly or out of guilt or out of like, oh, I guess I have to be the one to pay here, it's way different than like, you know what, I want to treat the people I love with this great experience, and it makes me happy to do that. More money will come to you that way. So the whole happy money concept is super beautiful. And I know all of us are trying to manifest abundance, especially spiritual people who are usually working in jobs that don't align with what we truly want to do. Now, this is my favorite book from high school. I just rebought a copy of it. So this is called Grendel. Now, I don't have many fiction books. And most of my fiction books are not fiction. Like if I look over at my bookshelf, I have Majestic by Whitley Strieber, which is based on the truth, according to Behold a Pale Horse. So it's put out as a fiction book. Same thing. I have Hostage to the Devil by Malachi Martin, which is scary as hell, which is why it's not on my suggestions. Which also is written as fiction, but is actually a true story that he had to publish as fiction so that it would be published. And 1984, which is looking real accurate nowadays. So I don't know if I actually have a single fiction book. Yeah, all of my fiction books are probably not fiction at all. But this is my only fiction book. That's why I can't say I didn't have a single one. I do have a single one. So I'm having an issue here. Why are you leaving me? Okay. So Grendel. Now, I'll be brief because I know we're getting late here. But I'm sure most of you, some of you, no, I'm not going to make that assumption. Some of you out there have read this book, Beowulf. And Beowulf is the oldest story that was found in English. It was a different form of English, one of the earliest forms of English, but it was like the oldest piece of English literature. And it's super boring. We had to read it in high school. It was painful to read. And it's kind of a fairy tale, kind of like similar to the Odyssey, like a super long poem. I'm sorry. Some of you probably really like that book. And I don't know, think it's great. And I don't know. But I hated it. However, this book, Grendel, so Beowulf was the hero in that, and Grendel was the monster. Now, this book is written from the perspective of the monster. Now, this was written in the 70s. The other one was written centuries ago. And now the reason that I'm including this book and the reason I enjoy this book is not only because, it's very existential. It also has 12 chapters and it is based off of the 12 zodiac signs. So there's a lot of metaphysical connections in this book. But the most important part, especially with a lot of stuff that is going on TikTok right now, with the whole cancel culture, with, the social justice warriors, with people who are calling other people racist or homophobic or this or that and labeling people, you're a bad person, this person's this person's that. All sides are pointing fingers. It's really fucking annoying. So I wanted to talk about this book, Grendel, to wrap things up because Grendel is the monster in Beowulf. However, when we read the story from the monster's perspective, he didn't know he was a monster. He actually was never really accepted by his family. His mom was kind of outcasted for having him because he was different than the other monsters. So he didn't really get along with the monsters. And then he was never really loved by his mother. And he kind of lived in the shadows. And one day he ventures toward the kingdom, town, village, whatever it was, where Beowulf was. And everyone was so scared to see him. And Grendel didn't really know he was a monster. But when people saw him, they were like, oh, he's hideous. He's scary. Keep him away from us. He's evil. He's bad. And it initially hurt Grendel's feelings because he didn't know he was a monster. And it kind of brings up this concept of that whole saying, if a tree falls in the woods and no one hears it, did the tree actually fall? And that kind of goes back to a lot of our universe and hologram stuff. But in this aspect, it's if the tree falls and no one hears it and nobody knows it happened, did it really fall? And now Grendel didn't know he was a monster. He became a monster after people labeled him a monster. And he didn't have bad intentions. He was just unaware and scary to them because he was different. And over time, he ends up eventually identifying with this label because he never had an identity. He didn't really know who he was. I'm pretty sure they even name him Grendel. I don't even know if he had a name before he was named Grendel, because I haven't read it in a while. And basically, after he was called a monster, after he was named Grendel, after he was told that he was dangerous and scary, he started to lean into that identity because he never had an identity before. He never got so much attention before. He had been pretty much nothing and no one. And now the tree fell and someone saw it. It became real. And now, at first he was hurt that they were afraid of him. But then he was empowered by how afraid they were. And it gave him strength. So he started going back into the village and being like, you're so scared? I'll give you something to be scared about. Roar. And he starts scaring them. And then as them being scared kind of isn't enough, he starts killing them. And he starts, pillaging the city and the village and all of these horrible things. And he becomes more and more. And it's like an existential perspective. And the reason that I bring it up is because, especially on TikTok and all of these social platforms, people are very quick to label other people. They're very quick to say, this person's racist, this person's homophobic, this person's hateful, this person's bad, this person should be deplatformed, this person should have everything taken away from them. And I always, when that stuff happens, I try to come back to this story of Grendel and did that person know they were a monster before you called them a monster? And then after they get that identity of a monster, they've never had that much attention or that identity or any identity. Maybe no one even cared about them before. Maybe their own mother didn't care about them the same way that with Grendel. And now all of these people are pointing fingers and obsessed with them. So they lean into it more and they become that monster. And sometimes if we were to handle things with more compassion for those people, like if they would have seen Grendel and just been like, oh my God, he's different. Well, what's that about? What is he? Let's get to know this thing and understand and maybe teach him about how to be civilized, teach him how to be a part of the village, as opposed to telling him that he's a monster and he can't come to the village, and empowering him. And, you know, this is the same thing that happened with Trump. Like, and I know this is a controversial topic because people are so triggered by it, but that's what I saw when I saw the whole Trump thing going down. I thought, like, this is like Grendel. Like, when people started labeling him as this monster, as like this racist, this sexist, this and that, and when they started to label him, he really leaned into that identity more and more and started to do things more and more. And it happened with the supporters of him. Like, basically, a lot of those people were called ignorant, racists, they're rednecks, they're this, they're that. And it was like, a lot of those people probably could have been educated or informed or maybe just shown some other perspective, and maybe they wouldn't have went into that. And I just wanted to say, I don't think that Trump supporters are like automatically racist. I just think that that's like really ignorant to any group of people to completely generalize. It's just insane. And you need to look at yourself when you're labeling other people. What is happening inside of you? Because what it comes down to when we talk about the hologram, the universe, everything that we're experiencing outside is a projection of our inner state. And if you're constantly seeing ignorant, hateful people who are bigots, what is that saying about you? And look at this situation that happened on TikTok with, you know, the social justice warriors, modern warrior, and all these people and all this cancel culture stuff. All of these people who were like cancelers. Their whole entire thing, they've got millions of followers because they attack and cancel people. And now they're getting attacked and canceled. Well, duh, that's the way frickin' energy works. What you put out is what you get back. It comes back to the money. You are angry and pissed about money. That's what you get back from money. And the same thing, if you cancel other people, that cancel energy is going to come right back for you. And when you label people into being these bigots, you know, it's hard to have compassion for someone who seems to not have compassion. It's hard to have compassion for someone that you view as ignorant. However, how does anything change if you match them with the same energy? If you see them as hateful, so you hate them back. And this brings me to another suggestion. The movie Kymatica. It is on one of my YouTube playlists, maybe like called like must-see videos or like must-see movies. The same one that has the Spirit Science Human History movie has the Kymatica movie, and that's a documentary. And that movie is like, every single time I watch it, my mind is blown. It's like I'm watching something brand new every time. Like, that's how intense and deep that is. Like a million times watch. But there's one part of it that literally took me like 5 times of watching for me to even understand and get this part, where they talk about vegans. Now, I don't eat animals. I do consume dairy though, occasionally, and I do eat eggs. Not that I need to justify or say that, but just trying to say, I don't have anything against vegans. I think it's great what they're doing. However, there is vegan activists who do very hateful things to people. And that's one of the examples that they give in this documentary, where someone who is sending hate towards a person who is doing something to an animal. And yeah, anyone who's doing anything to an animal, like, fucking, that sucks. That person is bad. But instead of sending hate and anger to that person, you have to send compassion, because one, that person, clearly something is wrong. Something is wrong with them, or they're experiencing something, or they don't have empathy, or they don't understand enough compassion. Maybe they haven't received compassion in their life. Maybe they don't understand how to be empathetic because of trauma, because of things. And it's not about like making excuses for bad people. It's about healing yourself within. And You're not going to change these things in the world by sending back the same energy that they sent you. You know, like, you're not going to get love and compassion and the new earth by pointing fingers and canceling and calling people racist and giving no people any chance to redemption. Those people that you cast them out of society because they said something that was ignorant, and a lot of the times they're only saying something that's like ignorant, you know? And it's like, ignorance can be fixed with information. Then we go back to Bringers of the Dawn and to the Earth book, the Pleiadian books. They say that information is light. The lack of information is darkness. So if you're seeing these people as dark, it's because they're lacking information. So if instead of trying to rip these people's lives apart, if maybe we took a different approach, we could all really like stop dividing, you know? And like Grendel, you know, we, you know, are also playing a part in creating a monster. And we need to acknowledge that when we point fingers. And I'm not completely innocent. I'm, you know, not perfect. I've been triggered by things and angered by people's actions, and, you know, wanted people to get in trouble for things that they've said or done. Of course, you know, I'm human too. But I really try to now come back to compassion, because really compassion, and that's in the Divine Matrix. You guys got to read it. Listen to it. Find that book. That's what I said. That book is also available in PDF for free. The Divine Matrix talks about compassion. And is compassion, you know, something that we're putting into the universe as a feeling, as an emotion, as a frequency? Or is compassion something that already exists in the universe that we are just connecting with? And the answer was both. It is both. It is something that we are creating at the same time. It's something that already exists that we're pulling towards us, just like everything else. So, yeah. That was my my little closing statement there, just because, you know, of all of this drama that, you know, is all over the For You page. And instead of making fun of these people, which I'm not going to lie, I was freaking entertained by the whole damn thing. Of course, watching a reality show train wreck happening with the real influencers of TikTok was quite the show. However, you know, that's not what I want to share with other people, you know. I'm not going to lie about the fact that I was like watching those, you know, videos, those fake apology videos and those crying videos and all this stuff. And it was just chaos and drama all over TikTok, like for freaking days. I had my freaking life hijacked by those people and their issues. However, it did really teach me a valuable lesson on top of the whole reality show aspect of it. It really made me want to talk a little bit more about this whole Grendel idea and topic of, you know, taking some responsibility for your own part in that. When you cancel other people, when you label other people, when you know, even as an activist, want to destroy or break down another person because of their actions. You are only responsible for your actions. And if your action is to destroy and break down another person, is to attack and hate and divide another person, and to push that person away from society, and to make that person lose their job and this and that, that's your karma. That's you. And everything needs to be handled with more compassion, including the things that trigger us, including the things that are wrong. Because how do we make any change? By acting like the things we hate. I don't know. Anyway, this was so much longer. I thought I was going to do like a quick little book suggestion. But anyway, thanks so much, guys. You asked for it. I'm so serious. Like, you asked for this. Thank you. So much love to you guys. I appreciate you being here. Like I said, I'm appreciating this journey. So much more to come. I'm a little busy with work right now, but the following week coming up, I'm going to have a lot more free time, and I'm going to try to get all of those series from TikTok onto YouTube with extra commentary. I know you guys really want that John Bonet series. That will be coming up as well. So stay tuned. Thanks so much.